Hey, good morning. Was gonna go live a little earlier. Started at 3, and I'm not sure what time it is on y'all's end, but it is 4:44 now. I basically just wanted to get on to see who might be up at 4:40 in the morning here, doing a little bit of live editing, and just thought I would go live and see if you guys had any questions. If you just want to watch or whatever. I've got a few critters that I am editing, starting out here in Lightroom. If you guys have any questions along the way, feel free to ask. I am hopefully live on Facebook and YouTube. On Facebook, it's just my personal profile, not my business page. But on YouTube, should be my photography page. Good morning. How are you doing? So this session was interesting. I always like sessions that challenge me. So we had a few critters. Got this dog that I'm doing right now. I had dogs, no cats, dogs, pony, horses, a pig. Got some of him running. These are some that I've already edited. And this is the one I'm working on right now. So I've already edited this in Lightroom, but now I am in Photoshop, and there's really not a whole lot that needs to be done. I just want him to stand out a lot more. So I'm using a lot of the actions that I've created to speed up my workflow. So essentially I'm going to start out by dodging and burning. But I've created I'm a very lazy dodge and burner person. So I've created sort of an auto dodge and burn, so it sort of detects the highlights and the shadows and just kind of auto pulls them out, pulls out the highlights, kind of pushes in the shadows a little bit. Just makes the subject pop. So I'm going to paint that on at 100% opacity, just on him. Her. It's Molly. Molly's a her. If you guys would say, hey, I'd be able to see if you're on YouTube or Facebook, because I'm kind of interested in seeing how you guys are seeing this. I see there's 7 of you on. Would love to see what platform you're watching from. I'm going to use a hairbrush to smooth out her hair, but I'm going to drop the opacity. I'm going to go ahead and just paint it on at full opacity, but then I'm gonna back it off a little bit. It just uses sort of an oil paint, and also blends the highlights and shadows together, just to give this kind of painterly effect. But I don't want it to be overpowering like it is right now. Okay, so that's obviously way too much. So I'm going to back it off a little bit. Probably by about 50%. Let's see what that did there. Whoops, looks like a pug nose if you look at it there. I'm going to go ahead and grab my manual dodge and burn action to bring out the catch light in her eyes just a little bit. In case you guys are wondering, I'm using hotkeys for everything, and I have all of my actions set up on hotkeys because that's just my workflow, and I just kind of have them right there where I can grab them. I just push a button and it pulls up. I'll just show you guys that real quick. So I have all of my actions all programmed here, and these are all actions that I've created myself. It's just things that are repetitive that I ended up doing over and over again, and I'd rather just not have to do that. Now, when I'm teaching, like if I'm doing a watch me edit video, I will create the action step by step rather than just click the button because I want you guys to learn. But when I'm live, I'm actually working on images and I don't have the time to do that. So you guys are more than welcome to ask questions. This is my, I call it my matte action. It sort of just gives us this effect that I like. Just kind of burns the shadows a little bit and adds a nice vignette. Wow, good morning. Good morning, Jolene. You were up early. I was gonna go live at 3, and then I realized almost 2 hours later that I didn't go live. Sharpen this. Oh, Julian, I have a question. I'm leaving everything as natural as possible, but I was wondering, did you want me to leave the this right here or remove it? Because I can remove it. I just assumed you'd want to leave it. Just the hook right there. Because when we did the horses, I removed the on our last session. We had them on a lead, and I just removed the lead. That's only why I was asking. All right. So here's our Photoshop before and after. So not a whole lot done other than bringing out my subject, making her pop and make her look beautiful, and kind of separate her from the background. Julian, since I know you're on, I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the ones I've already done. I like how this one turned out. I don't know how the quality is coming out on your end, but I really like how these turned out. I like how the detail on this leather work just jumps out. On to the next. Get a nice center crop there. I'm just using a custom brush that I created in Lightroom here, and I'm also using a preset that I created at the beginning of this, which I'm applying to any of the similar edits. And we've got light coming from the right side of this image. I'm going to start from there and pull down. So we're going to get this nice kind of vignette going on here. I think I'm also possibly going to add some light. Let's see here. I'm just going to use a radial filter to possibly add a little light orb over here. Something like that. So here's our before, here's our after. So it was super bright when we were shooting, so I had to really crank those highlights down. And one thing I don't like about that is it really makes the greens um, just have this weird color to them. But that's kind of just a byproduct of the Sonys. I've noticed the Sonys don't handle greens very well. Thankfully, you can fix that in post. I have one person hanging on from YouTube. I find it funny how the algorithms decide who gets to see these live streams or not. Got a combined audience of 20,000 people, and I've only had maybe a max of 8 people on at a time when I go live. It's probably just the ungodly hours that I go live. What's going on here? There we go. I'll probably just finish this one and then maybe get off. I more or less wanted to just see how many of you are on in the mornings. Just curious because us creators, we work weird hours of the day and night. So I thought maybe some of you'll be on. I usually start at about 9 o'clock in the evening and edit until 10 or 11 ish, and then I get up every morning at 3 a.m. and work until about 5 to 5:30. It's just because I have full-time jobs still and kids. So in the evening, that's after I put the kids to sleep. I have a wasp flying around here. I may have to take him out. In the mornings, I just want to be able to get some work done before work. All right. I'm gonna use my doggy hairbrush to give kind of a painterly look to her fur. And again, this is way over exaggerated. I'm gonna crank down the opacity on this once I'm done applying it. I just apply it at 100% and then drop the opacity. If those of you that are on have any photography questions, any editing questions, don't hesitate to ask. If you catch me live, that's the time to do it. All right, we're gonna drop the opacity to about 50%. I could have painted it on at 50%, but whatever. It's just kind of easier if I just paint the whole thing on and then drop the opacity. And start from the right side where the light's coming from, drag down. Create a nice silhouette there. Sorry, a nice vignette, not silhouette. Drop the opacity there. I don't want my logo to distract or pull the attention away from my subject here. So I just try to put it off somewhere where it's not going to where it's not going to jump off the screen at you, and then drop the opacity to let it blend in a little bit. All right, moving on to the next. Been curious to see how these are going to turn out. Yes, I was hoping. Oh, I was really hoping I could get some of that detail in the background. So guys, here's a good example as to why you would want to shoot in RAW. So a few things happened during the shoot. One, I started way earlier than normal, and I did that intentionally because I knew we were going to be working with animals, and I wanted to have a lot of extra time in case we needed it, in case they didn't cooperate or something. And just the problem is it ended up being really bright. And then secondly, here's a plight I have with Sony, is the exposure compensation knob is easily bumped. And so on top of it being already super bright out, my exposure compensation knob was cranked over to +1. So so it was even more, it was just the highlights were blown out. But I always shoot in RAW, and I knew I was going to be able to correct and pull a lot of that back out. So so this is a good example of that. So you can see, like right here, you can almost see no detail in the background at all. It's just white. But then when I add my when I pull those highlights down, you can see the detail back there, and it looks beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and set the crop on here. I want a nice balanced crop between him and her, right there. I also wanted to try to create a frame between this tree and these branches over here, and have them in the middle. I'd like to try to frame my subjects like that. So I like how that turned out. Julian, Julian, I'm sorry, are you still on? I have a quick question. Would you like me to remove these logos on his shirt, or do you want me to leave them? If you're on, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to leave them for now. And I'll leave this edit open if you want me to leave to remove it later. Typically, I would remove them, but if I can, I like to ask. Just in case. Might create another little light orb up there. Right here is where light source is. This is where the sun's at primarily. It's right up here. So I might bring this out a little bit. Using a radial blur. It was already bright to begin with, and now I'm adding light. Can also brighten his face just a little bit. It may be a touch dark. All right, so here's my before and my after in Lightroom. So look at that. Look how you can look how much detail you can pull out of that raw file. Could go ahead and bring this over to Lightroom. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to check something here. His skin tones are a touch on the red side. So I'm going to go over to my, oh boy, come on out. I'm going to go over to my HSL panel and drop the saturations on the oranges and the reds a little bit. The reds actually probably won't do much. It's the orange. There we go. That's where it's at. It's just because of the weird lighting situation. We've got the super bright. Also, the ground and possibly the dog are reflecting um, that red tones up into his skin as well as his own skin. Skin is actually highly reflective, I've noticed, in doing this. Alright, let's go ahead and bring this over into Photoshop. Julian, are you back on? I have a question. I have a question about logos. Do you want me to remove the logos on his shirt? Or leave them? I'm sorry, I keep calling Julian. Julene. I'm going to remove this. When you get these situations where you have a lot of light coming through, you get these dust particles floating through the air, which I think it actually looks kind of cool. Alright, do I see any weird distracting things? These branches are slightly distracting, but they're also not really getting in the way. I'm afraid if I start to remove branches, the branches in the background are going to cause some issues. It might look weird, but let's just see what content aware might do. Does it look weird? I might just leave that. I'm just afraid those branches reaching out there are going to be too distracting. So I think I'll take my chances and keep those. Oh, there we go. Keep those out of there. Wasn't too bad. All right. All right. Let's do some dodge and burn here. And this will probably be, let's see, 506. This might be my last one for the morning. Guys, let's get a conversation going. What do you guys use as a editing platform? What's your camera of choice? Your lens of choice? If you guys aren't going to ask questions, I'll start asking questions. Start asking questions, everybody starts dropping off. Like, oh, he sees us. Let's see. Let's see where you guys are coming from. I got one on YouTube and one on Facebook. I wonder if it'll. I wish it would show. I wish it would stay showing like that. I wonder if I can change that. Filters. Doesn't look like it's gonna let me. It's not gonna let me change anything there. Okay. I'm still not too hot about his skin tone, so I'm going to try something here. Let's add a hue and saturation layer. Just gonna select his skin, but I'm gonna do something really weird here. Just bear with me, guys. I'm gonna crank the colors way over here. I'm gonna come out here. You see how everything's selected? The dog's selected, Molly, and the trees. Anything with that color is selected. I want to try to narrow it down to just him and just his skin tone. So I'm going to play around with these colors down here until he's primarily the one selected. Looks like right around there, just as it's starting to fade out, is going to be my best bet. Whoops. It's hard to pinpoint that and narrow that down. Okay, so now essentially his skin is almost the only thing selected primarily. So let's go ahead and reset the colors now. And I can just desaturate the skin tones slightly. I can pull some of those reds out of there. Ooh, Photoshop's lagging. There we go. Get a little more natural skin tone in there. And I'm just going to paint it on to his skin. That looks a lot better. So I'm going to just invert that layer mask and paint. Whoa. And just paint it on. Paint it back on at 100%. Just on his face. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and remove these logos, but I'm going to put it on a different layer where I'll just put it here. I hate logos. They just pull your focus away from the subject. Oh, right. I'm going to have to merge some layers here. Forgot I already dodged and burned. I usually try using content aware first. If that doesn't work, then I'll just manually remove it. Whoops. Let's go back over there. Content aware usually does a pretty good job. Sometimes it's kind of a gamble. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. In this case, it worked. Pretty good. Could remove his glasses. I'm just using the clone stamp tool to do that. And there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and use my brush on Molly. Actually, before I do that, I guess it doesn't really matter. This one stick over here is really bugging me. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to remove it or not. But I'm going to try. There we go. Pretty much. Pretty happy with that. Go back to my hairbrush over here. Doesn't really look like it's doing anything, does it? What's the deal? It's not doing anything. I've got my brush. Opacity set at 100%. Set to white. Why isn't it painting? I bet something's selected. Yep. Okay. Usually if that happens, you press Option or Command D. I guess it depends on if you're on a PC or a Mac. I'm on a Mac with a PC keyboard, and press D and it'll deselect. That's usually the case. If something's not working, it's because there's a selection made that I don't see. So I'm gonna paint this on. Obviously, it's way too much. I'm gonna back it off once I've got my once I've got all my painting done here. I could also use this on him. That's why I created it. And back it off. Back it off, back it off, back it off to about 50%. There we go. It just smoothed out the hair there. I could dodge and burn him a little bit more, possibly. Just not great at dodging and burning. Got my manual dodge and burn. He's got all these wrinkles in his shirt though, that's why I don't really want to mess with it. But I'll do some. Just kind of a quick overall. Whoop. It's time for me to go to work anyways. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this off, pick up this call. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Thanks so much for watching, guys.